Welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an upload. You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Enjoy this week's show and don't forget to share it with all your friends. Welcome to the Property Investors Podcast. My name is Russell Leeds.
My name is Ricci Mandal.
And on this week's show, we're going to be talking about creative ways to finance your first property deal. Now, a lot of people want to get started investing in property because they realise that property investment is a fantastic way to make money. However, a lot of other people kind of think that property investing is just for the rich.
Well, I always thought that. When I was getting into property and I was looking into it and I saw, Samuel's stuff online, like the YouTube videos, I was just thinking, you've got to have a lot of money to get into property. But then when I started to really look into it, and the different ways and strategies that you could use that Samuel was talking about, I realised that actually that's not the case.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting then. If you were in that sort of situation, so when did it sort of first dawn on you? Actually, I don't need a lot of money to start investing in property.
I remember I was watching Winners on a Wednesday. Okay. And I was going through Winners on a Wednesdays, and I was watching the first few ones, and they were saying, I've done this with little or no money, not like putting down massive house deposits. And I was watching these Winners on the Wednesdays, and I was thinking, it's just these couple of people that have done this. Let me watch a few more and see where, because then in my head I'm thinking, if I watch another 20 episodes of it, which there was hundreds of them, I was thinking, these next 20 people are going to say, I put down, £500,000 into this deal. And the more Winners on the Wednesdays I watched, the more I realised that most of the Winners on the Wednesdays, I'd say 80% of them did it with little or no money, and they raised finance or they used creative different ways to get the property deals. And that's when I realised, actually, this can be for me as well. I can do this.
And what were you doing at the time? Like, did you have a lot of money saved up?
I had £500.
£500.
Yeah, and I'd stopped DJing about 6 months before, so I didn't have any money coming in. £500, no money coming in. So that's why putting a big deposit down for a house and having loads of money wasn't going to be an option for me. And I'm very glad that I stumbled across Winners on a Wednesday videos that actually did it with no money.
All right, so in that case then, because my very first deal, I had no money. I was like 20 or 21 sort of age. And totally broke, right? Totally broke. I probably had less money than you.
Really?
I probably did.
Oh, it's rough.
That is rough.
It's horrible, isn't it?
So what did you? I can remember because I used to work for my dad when I was that sort of age, and I was on a really low salary. And I can remember sort of some months where it was like, can't afford to buy any food. I have to just get beans on toast again type level. It's crazy now looking back, but I'm glad that I did it though, because it means I'm glad I've been there. And I think one of the worries with my kids, I don't want to make it too easy for them. Yeah. My parents never made it easy for me. I had to work and earn for everything. Even because I passed my driving test when I was 17. And I was on a very, very low income then. But I had to spend all my money on my driving lessons. Yeah. And I booked this one, they were the cheapest, but they only did Walsall. And I live 3 miles outside of Walsall. So rather than pay an extra few quid for a different instructor, he wouldn't come to me. I used to walk the 3 miles to Walsall, do my lesson, and then walk back.
Oh. Do you know, it's funny though, because I'm glad I went through that as well, because me going through that now, this is one of the reasons why I do these podcasts, and I come to the training events with you guys, because I've been through that and I've had that mindset of you need money to get started, but now I'm where I am today. Now I come back because I'm like, I've been there, I know other people are there as well, so let me help you, show you how I did it, let me show you how it was possible for me.
Yeah, that's true. So what did you do then when you first got started? What was your
So the first kind of strategy that we used was rent to rent, because you don't need a lot of money to get started in rent to rent. That you can do it with no deposit and no rent up front if you negotiate well. Yeah. But I mean, if you do need some money, it will only be a few £1,000s. But I didn't even have the few £1,000s. So how did I raise it for our first deal? We needed about 2.5, just over 2,000, about 2.5. And I raised it from a family member to get my first rent to rent deal. But then, interestingly, what happened was, as I got the rent to rent, it was through an agency, and when they realised that I was paying the rent on time and I was actually saving them and the landlord money, they started to give me more rent to rents, which I could do no deposit down and no rent up front because I had a good relationship with them.
So do you want to just maybe explain what your figures were? Because some people might be watching this thinking, I don't actually know what rent to rent, to rent. What were your figures like, and how did you make money from that first deal?
So the first deal, we paid the landlord. So we rented the property from a landlord. We didn't buy it. We rented it, and the rent was £995 a month. So that would get paid to the landlord, regardless of if we made money or we didn't. That would always have to be paid to the landlord, £995.
Yeah.
Now, the creative thing is, if you did this, let's say we rented it as a single let, we'd lose money because the £995 we're paying to the landlord is what we would get if we were to rent it out as a single let to a family. So now that's what we call general rent. So now we have to create super rent. And the way that we created super rent was, instead of renting out on a monthly basis, we rented out on a night by night basis, and we charged £120 a night. So, and we had about an 85% occupancy rate. So 85% of the month, we had people in there paying £120 a night. Once we added all of that up, that was our turnover, which I think off my head is about 2,000 something, just it's over £2,000. I don't know, I ain't got a calculator. But I know that once we paid the landlord their £995, overhead expenses, we were left with about £1,000, £1,200 profit.
Yeah. That's not bad, is it?
From one deal.
We were looking at average salaries recently, so and I think we said it was 26,000 puts you in the top 50% of earners. Two of those, and you're about there, aren't you? Yeah,
but that's rent to rent.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to talk about how do you raise finance and creative ways to get the money or buy property, or if you're actually looking to buy them, I mean, one of the ways that we looked at, which is just brilliant. I'd never even heard of this 6 years ago, until I saw yourself, Samuel, talking about it, and that was lease options.
Well, it was interesting because one of Samuel's early deals, and one of the things that opened my eyes to lease options. So I had a friend who they'd bought a house. You might have heard Samuel tell this story, but this is sort of from my perspective, right? So I had a friend who'd bought a house for their son, to live in, and he ended up moving out. You probably know the story. And then they were like, oh, I'm stuck with it. And the house prices at that time had actually dipped. This is sort of back when we were in the recession, 2008 type era, 2009. The house prices had dipped, and he wanted to sell because he didn't want to be a landlord. He only bought it for his son, didn't want to be a landlord, wanted to sell it. And he offered it to me. He said, Russell, do you want to buy it? And I looked at it and I was like, but it's not worth what you're asking for it. It's only worth, I think he was asking 95, it's worth 85. So it's not worth what you're asking for. It's only worth 85. And even if I bought it off you for 85, I could just go and buy that one for 85 or that one. It's still not a very good deal. And he was like, come on, I think it'd be a good deal. I said, nah, no, I'm not. I'm all right, thanks. So then about a couple of weeks later, I hear from the guy. He's like, I'm selling the house to Samuel. And I was like, what is Samuel thinking? Like it's a rubbish deal, right? So I rang Samuel. I was like, why are you buying his deal, mate? It doesn't work as a deal. It's more expensive than it's worth. And even if you pay what it's worth, which he won't accept because he's negative equity, if you pay what it's worth, it's still just 2 a penny. And then he explained to me, he's like, oh no, I've not actually bought it now. And he explained about a lease option, about how he's got an agreement to buy it, $495 in 7 years' time. And he's basically doing a rent to rent on it in the meantime. So Samuel started making cash flow from it as a landlord immediately because he took over the mortgage, but the mortgage was like really, really low. And interest rates were super low back then as well. So he took over the mortgage, started making cash flow immediately. And then when it came to buying it, it was now worth like 130 or something. And he bought it for 95. So it was
Samuel paid the landlord an agreed monthly rent.
Yeah.
And then he has the option to buy it in a few years' time, or 7, 8, 9, 10 years' time, whenever they agree.
Yeah.
So not only does he get the cash flow, but he also benefits from the uplift.
And gets a cracking deal. We've just done one ourselves right now. We've just signed for it for its lease option agreement for a hotel. So the reason the owners want to sell, the owners own it, and they were renting it to someone, and that contract's just come to an end. And there's a standoff between the two because it needs a bit of work spending on it. The owners don't want to spend the money on it, and the guy who's renting it off them as a business doesn't want to spend the money on it either. So the contract's just lapsed, just finished right now. The problem the owners have got is they're from China, and they transferred the money over. And I'm not an expert money exchange rates and stuff, but cut a long story short, the exchange rates, if they sold it, even though it's gone up in value, because the exchange rates have changed, if they sold it and got their money back, they would make a loss on it. So they again are in a situation where they have to sell it for more than it's worth just to break even, right? This is the perfect realm, the perfect opportunity for a lease option, because they're stuck in a situation they can't sell, and they don't want to keep it because for whatever reason, in this case, they don't want to spend the money on it. So we've said to them, well, look, we'll buy it off you for what you want in 10 years' time. It's probably, I think we're probably going to pay 100 grand over the odds for it. It's 2.2 million, it's worth about 2.1 at the moment. So we're paying over the odds for it, but I would expect in 10 years' time, we won't be paying over the odds for it. In 10 years' time, I imagine it'll be an absolute bargain, but we'll see, who knows. So we've agreed to pay it for 2.2. We're renting it off them for 80 grand a year, but it's like a 28-bedroom hotel. Like we'll make good cash flow from it. In fact, I think we'll make so much cash flow from it over the 10 years.
That will pay for the
That will be the deposit to pay for the purchase.
It's crazy.
No money down. Well, I say no money down deal. It is money down. We've got to pay for the refurb, right? But other than paying for the refurb, it's technically a no money down deal, and then renting it. Now we're talking. It's still big money because we're talking a really big deal.
So how much is the refurb?
The refurb will be around about 300.
So, but you could raise that if you wanted to. You could make it a completely no money down deal.
Yeah, we could, and we could pay investors back if we wanted to. Yeah, we could.
Sounds like a great deal.
Mate, it's a phenomenal deal. And this is a big scale deal. So people listening to this might not be able to afford 300 grand to pay for refurb, right? But this is the same as your first deal.
Yeah.
It's just much bigger.
Yeah.
And when you start learning how this works, rather than getting like 100 rent-to-rents, what you can do is you can then just do a rent-to-rent like this on a bigger scale. You just build your way up. Yeah. But you start small. Learn the ropes, learn how it works on a small deal. Make yourself. How much do you make off your first? 1,200?
Yeah, about 1,000, 1,200 pound.
No money down deal. This is a money down deal, but we could, like you say, we could raise the 300.
But if you're looking to, leave work or get out of your job quick, and you're looking to replace your income quickly. Small deals are perfect. Rent-to-rents
are brilliant. Lease options, brilliant.
So what happens if someone finds a property? Let's say you found that hotel.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Let's make it even more simple. Let's say you find a house and it's on the market for 100 grand, and it needs a 20 grand refurb, and then it's going to be worth 180 grand. So you pull out all of your money and more, but they need the money now. They're not open to a lease option agreement. But it's such a great deal. You want to buy it now to pull your money out, but you haven't got the money.
Yeah.
What could you do to raise the finance?
Well, the very first deal I didn't have the money. So I was saying I was broker than you, beans on toast boy, right? And
not even Heinz.
Not even Heinz. I actually remember. I think it was Netto used to sell baked beans for minus 5p.
How does that work?
I think you could only buy like 4.
So then you go 20p in debt.
So that they pay you 20p, but it was a marketing ploy. So you go in and do the rest of your shop there because you get your free beans. Well, they pay you for your beans.
I've never ever seen that in my whole life, where you go to a shop and they say, "We'll pay you to take this product." Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was a kid. There was a promotion they ran when I was a kid. So beans are very cheap. Beans on toast, cheap meal, man. Not a bad meal. Nice breakfast.
Bit of cheese on top.
I couldn't afford the
cheese. What about the beans?
Right?
I like the beans with the sausages in it.
It's very English, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of like very, very English, that.
Maybe after we film this, we should have some sausage, beans and toast.
I thought we were going to the Turkish.
Yeah, we'll go there.
Go to the Turkish.
We'll go there.
Anyway, what was your question? Something about beans. Oh yeah,
how would you buy? Yeah.
So my first deal, I didn't have any money, so I got a mortgage, which is, the great thing about property is you can get. There's lots of professional finance out there. You've got like mortgages, you've got bridging finance, you've got development finance. There's lots of professional finance where they'll lend you and put a charge on the property, which is great, gives you a good start. And then I just got a loan for the deposit. So it was a no money down deal.
Okay. We've spoken about lease option agreements.
Yeah.
We've spoken about you bought your first one with a mortgage and then got a loan for the deposit. So let's say you find the same house, but it's unmortgageable.
Okay.
What would you do then?
If the property was unmortgageable, well, you can still get bridging finance.
You can get bridging finance.
If it's unmortgageable.
So you can bridge finance properties that are unmortgageable because a bridging loan isn't a mortgage. A mortgage is a long-term loan to buy the house, but a bridge is just a short-term loan to bridge the gap between you buying it and putting a mortgage on it.
And the good thing about unmortgageable properties is a good chance you'll be able to avoid stamp duty, for example, which I know we've talked about before on the show. Which, especially on more expensive properties, is a big saving. And because it's unmortgageable and most people can't get a mortgage, it rules out a lot of the market as well.
Yeah.
So, what drives the price up of things? Well, we'll talk about supply and demand. So if there's lots of people that want a particular thing, the price is going to rise. If you've got an unmortgageable property, you're probably ruling out 99% of the market that don't want it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the hassle. They can't buy it because they need a mortgage, or they don't know about bridging finance, or they're not prepared to get a bridge because bridge is more expensive.
So you could raise finance from investors.
Investors, 100%. Yeah, professional finance, you could use investors. Personal finance is always really good, especially if you've got money. So, for example, let's say you've got 20 grand in the bank, but you don't want to spend the 20 grand because you need it for other stuff. You could get a loan for 20 grand. Use your personal 20 grand that you had to pay for the property and the deposit, and then have your loan to pay for because technically you can't have a loan to pay for your property. But if you have money, you can then get a loan, and then which 20 grand are you using?
I've never actually thought that. It's quite interesting. So what focus should people have if someone's watching this and they're like, right, I want to get started in property, I've found a house, which direction should they go? They've got no money. If I
had no money and I was getting started right now, I would 100% be looking at rent to rents.
Yeah.
100%. But I'd be looking at rent to rents with a lease option in mind. Because when you're renting it off them, I would always ask the question, hey, as soon as you've got the rent to rent secured, but would you ever consider selling? And if you could flip it to a lease option agreement, I mean, bear in mind, right, we use the word lease option. It's an option. You don't have to exercise the option. With our hotel, for example, if we have 10 good years making good cash flow, but for some reason the property market drops to $1 million, we'll just have our good 10 years and then say, thanks, but no thanks, you can keep the hotel. Or if you want, you can either keep it or we can extend for another 10 years and give us the option again. But right now we're not buying it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to buy it. You could just not buy it at the end. However, we know that over time, property prices tend to go up significantly. So if you were agreeing the price today, even if you're paying slightly over the odds today, there's a very good chance that in 10 years, 7 years, whenever it is that you've agreed, there's a very good chance that now that will suddenly look like a bargain.
Yeah. And what does that process look like if you get a lease option? I mean, does it have to go through solicitors? Do you draw up the contract? How does it work?
You could draw up the contract. You obviously need a contract. I would 100% recommend not doing that though. I would recommend getting a solicitor that understands lease options. The reason being, let's say for example, you owned an asset that was worth 100 grand. And because we'd agreed a deal 10 years ago, I was now going to buy it off you for 10 grand, even though it was worth 100. You would want to fight me on that. And quite often, if it works out that, as it turns out, it was a terrible deal, people are like, I don't want to pay. So if they can sort of say, oh, I didn't understand the contract, or take you to court, who knows?
Yeah.
If they've been legally represented by a solicitor who's explained to them the risks they're taking, etc., then you're totally protected. And I know people that have had that. In fact, that story I was telling you about with Samuel, they didn't want to sell it to him. And they contacted their solicitor to see if there's anything they could do to get out of it because it had gone up so much. And the solicitor said, no, there's nothing you can do.
Well, lease options are quite because if I remember correctly, lease options are actually started and were more common on commercial units.
Oh, that's how it started, on land.
Yeah.
Mainly. I mean, that's what most of our lease options now, I know we're talking about the hotel, but most of our options are on land. And then the idea is, if we get planning permission on the land, what happens to the value of the land? You're forcing the value up massively. So let's say you've got a piece of land that's worth 100 grand, but if you got planning permission for 20 houses, it's now no longer worth 100 grand. I mean, it depends on the value of the houses, etc. But it could be worth $1 million.
But you wouldn't pay the owner of the land a monthly fee?
No.
Because you can't then rent out the land yourself while you're trying to get planning?
All it is an option. We don't even really take control of the land. It's just it's more like they can carry on using it for whatever they want. It's more
You're
like
just doing the background work to get the planning.
Yeah. And if we get planning, then we can buy it off them.
Yeah.
So it's almost more like just a restriction on the land, so they can't sell it. We're protecting the land, so we've got the option to buy it, and they can't sell it or do anything in the meantime. But we don't actually. I don't go and play football on the land or anything. You know, we don't.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Why don't on one of your pieces of land can we build like a golf course or a football pitch or something?
Oh, I don't know. It's not worth it, is it? Because then, like, what happens if we build a golf course on the land? How much would that? I don't even know how much that would cost. I imagine it's a lot more than you'd think. Because you'd think, well, it's
probably.
Just grass.
There'll be a lot of landscaping that would need to be done, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
A lot of maintenance.
And keeping the grass. Can't we just go to a local golf club and you can beat me there instead?
Yeah, we could. Can you play golf?
No, that's why I said you could beat me there.
What's your football? Do you play cricket?
I don't play cricket. I don't play boring sports. Golf, cricket, darts.
So what do you play?
I play football.
Right.
I play racket sports, so I used to, badminton,
Boring.
tennis. They're boring. Do you know what though? I played golf for about 3 months, and I joined the golf club. This is when I was living in Lichfield. I joined Lichfield Golf and Country Club, and I used to go around the 9-hole. And I played for about 3 months, and I realised after about 3 months of playing that I was going to have to put in an awful lot of time and effort to get good.
Yeah, but that's like with anything though.
But I wasn't prepared. Maybe when I'm like retired, I might start playing. I wasn't prepared. I already play football every week. I go to the gym. I do lots of other stuff, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't enjoy it enough to put in the hours and hours and hours I was going to need to get good. And it's so frustrating because I feel like I was getting somewhere, and then suddenly, out of the blue, I was shit.
Well, it is a hard sport. I think golf is the hardest sport to be consistent at. Because with football, we play football every week, and it's like, yeah, every now and then you might not be on your game.
Yeah.
But more times than not, you play. With golf, it can be a very inconsistent sport.
I'd like to play cricket though. I've never really played cricket, but I'm quite good at all the skills I would have thought you'd need. But I don't know. I'll have to play. But I imagine I tend to be quite good at most sports. Do you know one of those people that
you're just good at everything? Good. You're good at table tennis. I remember we played table tennis. But table tennis isn't. Are you good at tennis? I don't know, because table tennis is slightly different to real tennis, isn't it?
It's totally different. It's a totally different skill. Tennis. I'm better at table tennis than I am at tennis.
Why?
I played more table tennis. I used to play tennis when I was a kid.
Do you play tennis at the gym?
A little, occasionally.
Well,
occasionally. I'm going to play Chris at David Lloyd. I've played Evans a few times, but I beat him so bad. It wasn't fun, you know. I'll have to play Chris, because Chris is meant to be quite good. We'll have to have a game. We'll have a game, bro.
Well, we'll have to have a game.
We'll do it.
But when we're talking about, where were we? Creative ways to finance properties. So when we talk about financing, I don't know why we're talking. We always go off on these little things like table tennis and these different topics.
That's why it's a podcast and not just like a YouTube video, because people are like, "What are they talking about?"
But creative ways to raise finance for properties. I guess what I've kind of got from the conversation we've had so far is, yes, you can use creative ways to raise finance, but also it's not always just about raising the finance. It could be about the strategy you use, so that you don't even need the finance.
No, you don't. And I like I say, are there any other things we get? So you've got raising finance, You've got professional finance, you've got investors, networking's a great way.
What do you think of crowdfunding?
It's very similar to bridging. So they'll put a charge on it. They won't give you all the money.
Yeah.
They'll give you a percentage.
Okay. So why don't we leave the folks that are watching this or listening to this, why don't we leave them with a list of ways that you can finance properties?
Well, the first thing you need to be able to do if you want to make any money, and the skill, the thing is, why would I lend you money if you had nothing to bring to the table?
Well, you wouldn't.
No. So if you're doing a joint venture or whatever, you need to be bringing something to the table that they don't have. Now it's normally either time, expertise, or money. If you've got no money, then you need to have time and expertise. So one of the most important skills that you can find, and what you did and what I did, how we got started, is we learned the skill of being able to find good deals. If you can find really attractive deals that are going to make a lot of money, you normally can find investors.
Find the deal and the money will follow.
Yeah, even if it's family. Like family lent to me when I first got started. Family lent to you when you first got started. You know, don't be ashamed of borrowing money from family. And then once you've borrowed money from family, you've got a track record then. You've shown, oh look, I've done this deal, this is what I made, and then other people will be interested. Or deal selling. If you find the deal and you can't find someone to joint venture with it, sell the deal onto them, but then document what they've done. I found this deal. It is a rent to rent. It makes this much money. And show people, this is a case study of your work and what you can find and what you can do.
Yeah.
And then you can then say to them, look, this is the deal I found. You don't have to tell them you sold it, just tell them the numbers. This is the deal I found, this is how much we had to put in, this is what we did, bam, 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 this is how much money it makes. I found another one, would you like to fund it, and I will give you X% of the profits.
Yeah.
Deal selling is a great way to prove your, and rent to rent's a good way of proving credibility as well.
And also if you deal source and you're building up a list of investors, you're building up a list of investors that are wanting to buy properties. So if you come across a property yourself, and you've got a list of investors, you've got a group of people that are already looking to buy properties that you could raise the finance from.
That you could joint venture with. There's lots of things. You need to put yourself in. You need to, number one, you need to learn how to find good deals. Then you need to get in the right environment and see what other people are doing. See how other people are doing it. But rent to rent, deal selling, lease options, joint ventures, raising finance, for me, that's probably the very best way of getting started if you want to get started in property. And then you can grow it from there. Start small. Once you get a few rent to rents and you're bringing in a few grand, then start saving that money to invest in property. I think we always talk, don't we, there's two types of income. You've got your fast pound, which is often the money you've got to work for. If you've got no money, you're probably going to have to work for the money. Then once you get the money coming in, you can then start investing that money and building your slow pound where the money starts working for you.
Yeah.
But you can't get money to work for you if you don't have any money.
No.
So you've got to put the work in first, and there's lots of ways in the property space that you can do that.
I guess what you need to do is find the deal, and the money will follow. That was like my words of wisdom to end
That
the
was
podcast,
like your words of
but
wisdom.
You didn't.
I didn't back you up on it.
You didn't back me up on it. Should I do it again?
Do it again, and I'll back you up.
So, what did I say again? Hold on, I forgot. I've even forgotten the phrase.
Find the deal.
Find the deal.
And the money will follow, was it?
And the money will follow.
Find the. Sorry, you go. Or do we do it together? Do you say find the deal, and then do I say, and the money will follow, and then we wrap it up? So it's like joint wisdom.
But who's going to wrap it up? Are you going to wrap it up, or am I going to wrap it up?
You wrap it up.
I'll wrap it up. Okay. Find the deal.
And the money will follow.
My name's Ricci Mandal.
My name's Russell Leeds.
And we'll see you next time.